Welcome to our Faroese Politics and News Report, brought to you by PalsFundamentals. You can find more video content like this on the PalsFundamentals YouTube channel and website. Links to the sources are below. So let's jump right in. We've got a packed report today covering everything from environmental initiatives and health insights to law enforcement updates, business developments, and the latest political discussions. And of course, we'll wrap things up with a comprehensive weather report.
Sounds good to me.
All right, so first up, let's head over to Skúvoy. The Ramsar committee there has been hard at work since, 2016, trying to get certain areas protected to help safeguard bird life. It seems like their efforts might be paying off. There's been some recent meetings, including one that was open to the public, and there's a sense that things are nearing completion. Harry Jensen, who's on the committee, has even confirmed that progress is being made.
Oh, that's good news. It sounds like they're making headway.
Yeah, it seems like it. So, speaking of positive developments, there's an interesting research out of Stano Miestru the Faroe about diabetes.
Right. And their new research is pretty fascinating. It suggests that, on average, Faroese people with type 1 diabetes are doing better with long-term blood sugar control than many other Western countries. And get this seems to be true whether they manage their diabetes with an insulin pump or with pens. Dr. Herborg Liggjasardóttir Johannesson, a diabetes doctor, presented these findings at the Diabetes Association's annual meeting back in March. They found that 40% of pump users and 43% of pen users had long-term blood sugar below 53 millimole per mole, which is considered the threshold for well-managed diabetes. Now, that's pretty remarkable when you consider that in many other Western nations, only around 20 to 30% hit that target. It's a reminder of how crucial blood sugar control is to prevent long-term complications.
That is remarkable. That's really great to hear.
It is.
So shifting gears a bit, let's turn to law enforcement activity.
Yep.
Sounds like it's been a relatively quiet period, but there are a couple of incidents to report.
Yeah, so there were two men who were fined 3,000 kroner each for some, let's say, rowdy behavior. It involved a physical altercation, happened early in the morning, and it was deemed a violation of public order rules.
Not good.
Yeah, well, Anyway, separately, there was a driver arrested in Norra late last night for driving under the influence of alcohol. Apparently, they were over the legal limit. A blood sample was taken in Tórshavn, which is standard procedure in these situations. Oh, and the police also conducted checks at bars, but no significant issues were reported there.
So, thankfully, things weren't too crazy overall.
Seems like it.
But unfortunately, there was another incident involving a suspected drunk driver.
Yeah, this one happened around 6:30 a.m. at Kalnastangi in Kálafjörður. Okay. A car crashed into a guardrail, and the driver is suspected of being under the influence. They tested over the legal limit and were also taken to Tórshavn for a blood test.
Not a good trend.
Nope.
Okay, moving on to business news. We've got an update on Faroe Isles Distillery. It looks like they've been working hard to break into the American market, and, well, their timing coincides with the start of a U.S. trade war.
Yeah, Daniel Hoydal, the CEO of Faroe Isles Distillery, shared some interesting information about that. He said that while the trade war definitely brings some uncertainty, it's also sort of inadvertently helped them out.
Really? How so?
Well, apparently because of the trade situation, Canadian shelves are pretty empty when it comes to American alcohol products. And as you can imagine, this has led to an increased demand for, well, alternatives like Faroese alcohol.
Wow, that's quite a turn of events.
It is, although tariffs on Faroese goods going into the U.S. are expected to be around 10%, so, there's that to consider.
Right. So, switching gears a bit, there's been some attention drawn to Faroese marriage laws lately because of a reader's letter.
Oh, yeah. The letter pointed out something that's been, well, a bit of a concern for some folks. See, the current Faroese marriage laws don't actually specify a minimum age for marriage. So technically, with parental or official permission, someone as young as 9 could legally marry an older individual.
That's pretty unsettling.
Yeah, a lot of people agree with you on that. Women's associations across the country are pushing for a change in this law to make the marriage age the same as the age of majority, which is 18. Their argument is that this would protect children from being forced into marriages and ensure that young people can make this important decision when they have other adult rights.
That makes a lot of sense. All right, so moving on to discussions about pensions, there's going to be a public political panel discussion happening soon to discuss the possibility of raising the pension age.
Yes, that's right. It's being organized by Fagfelag Samstarti, which is the trade union cooperation. The discussion will take place on April 8th from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m., and the topic, of course, is the proposal to bump up the pension age to 70. They've got a pretty impressive lineup of politicians participating, including Ruth Vang from Framsøkn, Axel Johansen from Javnaðarflokkurin, Eiríkur Jakobsstovu from Tjóveldi, Barur Astag Nielsen from Sambandsflokkurin, Jens Avrana from Miðflokkurin, and Banir Johannesson from Folkeflokkurin. It's a free event and open to anyone who's interested.
So if you're interested in this topic, you should definitely check it out.
For sure.
Okay, let's see. What else? Oh, in the political realm, Framsøkn has a new policy on abortion law.
Right. Their new stance is that up to the 12th week of pregnancy, the decision about whether or not to have an abortion should be solely up to the woman. This new policy comes after, you might remember, a parliamentary debate about abortion law in the spring of last year.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. It got pretty heated.
Oh, yeah. There were some divisions in the coalition, especially within Framsøkn. It's interesting because even though Landsstyrismaður Bjørn K. Peterson, who's from Framsøkn, actually proposed this new law, only one representative from his party voted for it. 2 others voted against it.
Wow. So it doesn't sound like there's a complete agreement within the party on this.
No, not really. Ruth Vang, the party leader, doesn't even think the proposal will be brought up again in the current parliamentary session.
Okay, so let's move on to some news that could have some big implications for the Faroe Islands down the road. Students from DTU Space have been exploring the islands lately.
Yeah, 9 technology students from DTU Space, which is the Technical University of Denmark, have been visiting they're checking out potential locations for launching mid-sized rockets. And get this, these rockets would be carrying satellites.
Wow, so this is a step beyond just being a place to receive satellite data.
Exactly, and there's a reason for this. It turns out that Europe really needs more satellite launch sites. The European Space Agency, ESA, is even worried that they're falling behind in this area.
So where did the Faroe Islands fit into all of this?
Well, the DTU students are actually conducting something called a feasibility study for a launch site here. This is part of their space systems engineering course, which is led by David Arge Klevang. He's from Tórshavn and lectures at DTU Space, and he's even been involved with NASA's Mars work. Klevang believes that the Faroes, geographically and geologically speaking, are well-suited for launching mid-sized rockets, kind of like places like Shetland and northern Norway.
Okay, so what would be needed for this to actually happen?
Well, for starters, you'd need a suitable launch site, obviously. You'd also need a deep-sea port, good infrastructure in place, and, of course, support from the relevant industries. But Klevang emphasizes that this kind of project, if it were to move forward, absolutely needs the backing of the Faroese people. And of course, you have to consider the impact on nature and the environment. The study's report, when it's done, will offer some technical input for Faroese industry and authorities about, the potential opportunities for a space industry here.
This is really exciting news. I mean, the possibilities are pretty incredible.
Totally. It'll be interesting to see how things develop.
Okay, let's switch gears again and talk about infrastructure. There are a lot of discussions happening right now surrounding the Suðuroy Tunnel.
Absolutely. There's been some back and forth between Títur Samuelsson, who's with PF Suðuroy Artunlimum, and Christian Storhamar, representing a private tunnel group. They've been debating the current proposal, and the private group is basically suggesting that they need to reevaluate the whole thing pretty thoroughly. They even come up with an alternative route. Tell me more.
Well, their idea is to go with a longer route that goes via Skúvoy. They argue that this would let them drill from 3 different locations at the same time, which could potentially shave 2 years off the construction time. Of course, the tunnel company thinks the current plan is the best one.
So who's right?
Well, it's hard to say. It's a complex issue with a lot of factors to consider. But what we do know is that both the Economic Council and the National Bank has stated that building the Suðuroy Tunnel right now isn't a good idea from a financial perspective. They say the Faroese economy is facing some sustainability challenges, and this project might be biting off more than it can chew right now.
So is the project on hold?
Well, Lugmar Axel V. Johannesson held an information meeting for parliamentarians about the tunnel. He even shared a detailed email from the private tunnel group at the meeting. But interestingly, the private group themselves weren't invited.
That's interesting. What's Lugmar's stance on the tunnel? He believes that in the long run, looking ahead 50 or 60 years, the tunnel is the right solution. But, like the others, he's worried about the timing. He thinks that if they push forward with it now, it could mean delaying other important projects, like a new patrol and rescue ship and some other planned tunnels.
So it's all about priorities and resources, really.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, on a less positive note, it seems like those newly implemented tariffs have had a negative impact on pensions.
Yeah, sadly that's true. Faroese pensions have actually gone down in value since those new tariffs kicked in earlier today. Arnfinnur Good Johnson, an investment manager at Liv, has been keeping a close eye on all of this. You see, Liv manages a big chunk of Faroese pension savings, and they've been watching the stock markets go a bit haywire lately, largely because of U.S. trade policy. And because pension funds invest contributions in stocks, well, when those markets get shaky, the value of those savings goes down.
So people's hard-earned pensions are feeling the effects of these global trade tensions.
It seems that way, unfortunately.
Okay, shifting to health news. There's been a major health survey by the National Board of Health called Hvusu Hevurtuta, and it's revealed some concerns about the financial vulnerability of certain groups.
Right. The survey indicates that a significant number of younger people, those between 25 and 34 years old, and families have become, well, a lot more financially vulnerable in recent years. Economist Harry Aragvi has been talking about this finding, and it's definitely something to pay attention to.
And why is that? What's contributing to this increased vulnerability?
That's a complex question, and there's no easy answer. But sociologist Anja Jokonsdottir has pointed out that there seems to be a growing gap between those under 55 and those 55 and older. She even suggests that the social contract between generations might be starting to fray a bit. She's really emphasizing the importance of addressing this issue as a society.
Okay, so let's move on to some political news. There was a notable speech at Tjóveldi's party congress.
Yeah, Siri Schönberg gave a speech that really focused on the idea of unity. Saman eitt sjálfstætt land, together for an independent country. She talked about the importance of standing together to defend democratic values and to support those whose freedoms are being threatened. She even brought up the unifying power of culture, referencing the FMA Awards in Klaksvik and that moment when everyone sings Gott er a Faroe Lundi together.
Sounds pretty inspiring.
It was. And she also acknowledged the party supporters who have passed away and emphasized the importance of their legacy. She thanked the party leadership, the government representatives, and all the members for their hard work. She even made a point of saying that politics is cooperation, which is a pretty powerful message.
So beyond the message of unity, what else did she touch on?
Well, she highlighted the party's success in the recent municipal elections and the fact that they're leading the way in several municipalities. Then she shifted gears a bit and addressed some of the global challenges we're facing. She stressed the need to protect democratic values, respect international law, prioritize research and development, promote equality, and, just believe in the good of humanity.
Pretty big topics.
Definitely. But then a significant chunk of her speech focused on, you guessed it, Faroese independence. She used the phrase "Løsningskraft," which means independence is required. She praised Hangye Hoydal for consistently advocating for this and pointed out that there seems to be a growing consensus that the relationship with Denmark needs to change. She even talked about some recent progress in foreign policy, like the agreement with China.
So it sounds like independence was a major theme.
It was, but she also acknowledged the party's achievements on the domestic front, although she admitted that maybe they haven't done the best job of communicating those achievements to the people.
What kind of achievements are we talking about?
Well, she mentioned their efforts to tackle inflation, lower taxes, raise wages, especially in healthcare and education, improve parental leave, increase pensions, build new social housing, and make healthcare and transport infrastructure better.
That's a pretty long list.
It is. And then looking ahead, she talked about prioritizing things like building more housing, lowering the VAT on essential goods, and continuing to work on constitutional reform. She really emphasized the importance of getting young people involved and preparing for future elections. Her goal is for Tjóveldi to be a key player in any future governing coalitions. Oh, and she also reiterated the party's full support for Greenland's right to self-determination.
So it sounds like she covered a lot of ground in that speech.
She really did. And to wrap things up, she invoked the myth of the bumblebee. The idea that bumblebees shouldn't be able to fly, but they do anyway.
Yeah, I get it.
Right, so she used that to illustrate the potential of the Faroe Islands to achieve great things that might seem impossible. She attributed this potential to the strength, unity, and ambition of the Faroes people, and she ended with a call for the world to recognize the Faroe Islands' independence.
Powerful stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, before we get to the weather, there's one more piece of business news. We have an update on Atlantic Petroleum's debt situation.
Right, so they've announced that they found a solution to their debt issues, which means they can continue to operate.
That's good news. How do they manage that?
Well, it sounds like they've been negotiating with their major creditors, and they've managed to get roughly 90 million kroner of their debt reduced.
That's significant.
It is. And as part of the agreement, their major creditor, London Oil and Gas, is converting its claims into equity, so they now hold just under 18% of Atlantic Petroleum.
Interesting.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens next. The company is planning to release its financial report for 2024 later this month, so we'll get a better picture then.
Sounds good. All right, so finally, let's wrap up with the weather forecast.
Okay, so here's the report for Sunday, April 6, 2025 at 10:15 UTC. We've got a high-pressure system east of the Faroes that's pretty much stationary. What that means for you is light winds and dry weather. Looking ahead to Monday morning, we're expecting a gentle to fresh breeze from the southeast, blowing at about 3 to 8 meters per second. There might be some occasional dips down to a light breeze, less than 5 meters per second, and the wind direction could become a bit variable. It'll be cloudy, but mostly dry. You might even see some sun, especially in the north. Temperatures will hover between 3 and 8 degrees Celsius. Moving on to Monday, we can expect a gentle to fresh breeze from the south, about 3 to 8 meters per second. It'll be partly cloudy to lightly cloudy, and again, mostly dry. Temperatures will be a bit warmer, between 5 and 9 degrees Celsius. For Tuesday, the winds will die down to a light breeze from variable directions, less than 5 meters per second. It'll be cloudy with some occasional showers, and temperatures will be between 6 and 10 degrees Celsius. Now, on Wednesday, we start with a light breeze from variable directions, again, less than 5 meters per second. But things will pick up in the evening, with a fresh breeze to fresh wind developing from the west, blowing at 5 to 10 meters per second. It'll be cloudy with occasional showers, and temperatures will be between 7 and 11 degrees Celsius. For Thursday, we're looking at a fresh breeze to fresh wind from the west, 5 to 10 meters per second, which will shift to a more westerly direction later on. It'll be mostly cloudy with some showers, but you might catch a glimpse of sun here and there. Temperatures will stay between 7 and 11 degrees Celsius. And finally, for Friday, we're expecting a fresh breeze to fresh wind from the west, 5 to 10 meters per second. We'll see partly cloudy skies with some showers, but also some sun, or at least some glimpses of it. Temperatures will be a bit cooler, between 5 and 9 degrees Celsius.
All right, thanks for the detailed weather report. So that's it for today's Faroes Politics and News Report. We've covered a lot of ground today, everything from environmental protection efforts and health research findings to law enforcement updates, business developments, and the latest political discussions. Be sure to check out the PalsFundamentals YouTube channel and website for more content. And as always, the links to all the sources for this report are down below.
Thanks for listening.
Now that we've looked at all these individual news stories, it might be interesting to consider how they connect to a larger picture. Are there any underlying trends emerging? Are there any common threads running through these seemingly disparate events? What does this news cycle tell us about the state of Faroe society, its priorities, and its future direction? We'll leave you with those questions to ponder.
Until next time.
See you then.